Hello, how are you? Today we take an in-depth look at the new Leonardo AI. The tool, or rather the most complete toolkit currently for image generation and editing with artificial intelligence, which also incorporates a multitude of unique functions for artists and creatives from different disciplines such as flow state, real-time canvas, style transfer, upscaling or enhanced rescaling to refine images like no other application. Or the recently updated animation with AI, which puts it on par with the most advanced video generators today, among other functions that we will also see below. Some time ago we already talked about Leonardo, but given the interface changes, function improvements and the addition of new ones, I have decided to make this complete and updated tutorial so you can make the most of it. I admit that although initially when it came out I preferred to use other more advanced tools at the time like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion for image generation, right now Leonardo produces them at the same level and also has many other high quality functions all condensed into a single application. So all of this makes it one of my go-to AI tools, and let me make it clear that this is not a promotional video and I am not paid by Leonardo.
So let's see everything it currently offers, which I'm sure you will find as useful and interesting as I do.
We enter the application and the first thing that appears is this notice about the video function update, Motion 2.0, which is a huge breakthrough in Leonardo's animation. Then we try it. You'll see that the progress is enormous. Then, here on the main page, we have different examples of images generated in Leonardo and shared in the creators community. In recent months, the quality has improved significantly, reaching the level of the best applications like Midjourney. We see it in images like this one, for example in a surrealist photographic style, or this other one in a three-dimensional cartoon style of illustration, macro photography, fashion design, pictorial, photography with complex effects, like in this case, movement and particles, or even graphic design, like in this case, creating a logo that perfectly represents the brand name well written, something that continues to be a challenge for many artificial intelligences. In short, the quality is top-notch in all types of styles and artistic disciplines, but also all the functions are incredible. Let's do a quick review, starting with the real-time canvas. We click here and here in this menu we can choose between different types of style. I'm going to select, for example, fantasy art. Here I choose a color, gray for example, and the brush size. And so freehand, in this case with a mouse, we can start making strokes. On the right, we can see that it is interpreting it in real time. Through this dial, we can increase creativity, meaning it deviates more from the graphic reference we are providing, or we adjust it better by reducing creativity. And then, to better guide what type of representation we want it to make, we can write it in the prompt box, for example, dog. Remember that it is always preferable to do it in English. Very well. My doodle right now is a dog in a fantastic art style. We can keep adding details or colors, and as we see, it interprets it in real time. Or we can also change the style. You can notice the difference if we set it to, for example, anime. Another example, let's now set it as concept art. We choose color, and we already have in the prompt box that it is a dog, and on the right it begins to represent it. If we increase the creative strength, it moves further away from our reference, but the result might interest us more. Well, this is an exclusive tool from Leonardo that I find very interesting for illustrators. And now, with this function, we can interpret images that we provide. This one generated with artificial intelligence is in concept art mode. If we reduce the creativity, it adjusts more to the shapes. Let's tell it that it's a girl and reinterpret it in, for example, painting mode. This is how it would look as a color sketch, and this in vibrant mode. Very interesting. And we can also execute inpainting functions. For example, here I can indicate that I want it to draw glasses. I place them over the character, and perfect, depending on the degree of creativity, it will adjust more or less to the shape we have given it. A very interesting and controlled function for doing inpainting, which we don't have in other applications that allow this function, like Photoshop, Midjourney, or Firefly. As you can see with Leonardo, it would be like a drawn inpainting, and also with the possibility of defining the color. More things. The main one of generating images is here in the center. Here we have the latest ones we have created, and we can indicate a new scene, for example, a cup of coffee. We press the generate button, and while it works on it, we can press it again to generate another batch. As we see, the style is cinematic and we can define it here. If we press the button, this menu unfolds and we can choose from many other styles. I will select, for example, vector graphic design. Generate. Then we can define the ultra quality or fast generation mode and the dimensions of the images. It would be more about the aspect ratio. Here we see that with the same coffee cup prompt, the aesthetic is completely different. And if we choose, for example, this other stock photography style, we will see the difference. Below we have the number of images we wanted to generate in each batch and a final test with a creative style. Here we see the 4 stock photography images, which, as you can see, leave quite a bit of white space. They respect the copy space for the brand to place text, logos, or elements it needs. We see that they are different from cinematic images. And these are the 4 images in a creative style. Quite different, with a predominance of neon tones. Very good results without having to type long strings of prompts to describe the scene and style in detail. But in addition to those predefined by Leonardo, we can provide our own reference style. If we click here on the add image icon, we have the first option, reference style, and then we will also see the very interesting new features of reference character to create consistent characters in different situations and styles, and reference content to vary a scene while maintaining the form and structure. Alright, pues. So if we click on reference style, we can upload an image. In my case, it has been this one with a 4-vest painting style, and we can determine the weight we wanted to have in our scene. Low, medium, high, ultra, and maximum. Let's set it to medium. Generate. We had the coffee cup in the prompt, and here we have it with the colors and pictorial style of the reference image. Truly amazing. And if we set the influence to maximum, it has even more weight. You see it, right? Similar colors, shapes, and brushstroke style. A super fast and convenient function to apply styles without needing to train models. This is what we just saw about reference style, and the next function is character consistency. It offers us a brief tutorial if we want, we're going to see it right now. Character reference, and we load either from Leonardo's library or from our device the image of the character we want to vary. I have loaded, for example, the image of this man. And in this case, with Artesiano, we can set the influence to low, medium, or high. I'm going to select high and place it in a different situation. I am writing in the prompts. Man with a spacesuit in space. We click generate, and after a few seconds, we have 4 interpretations here. We can see that the character is completely consistent. In the prompts, I only put man. I did not define anything about his physical appearance, his glasses, beard, or that he is red-haired, and yet it respected the character with the outfit and in the situation we requested. We can see that it is not simply an inpainting because the lighting varies. The style is similar to the photo because we left it as cinematic by default, but we could even represent it in a different style. We would click here on the models preset and could choose one of them. For example, concept art. I click generate again, and we see within the style menu that there are others different according to the model. In this case, we are using the game concept cartoon style. The character is perfectly identified with the same features and characteristics. A man around 40 years old, red-haired, with a beard, glasses, but with a different concept art model, cartoon style oriented towards a game. Again, we can determine quite precisely the type of image we want, limiting the number of prompts and providing our reference image. I can think of many uses this could have. The next function is the reference content, which I find especially useful for creative professions like advertisers, interior decorators, product designers. Let's remove this image and load a different one, selecting reference content this time. Ta-da! I have uploaded this image of a bedroom with predominantly earth tones, white, beige, brown, and and here I am going to describe it as a room in red and green. Right, here we have it. The difference is more than noticeable, right? That's not as realistic as the photograph we provided because we kept the style of the previous image, the concept cartoon style for a game. And we are going to change the model to the real life Vision 1, for example, and the dynamic style to default. Now we can see that it is much more realistic, like a photograph taken live, and it respects not only the angle but all the elements of the original photograph, modifying the colors as we requested. Now the bedroom decoration is predominantly in reds and greens. We will do a second very quick test by uploading this image of a car. The original is blue, we will ask it to have the colors of the rainbow, for example. And in a matter of seconds, it has modified it by changing the color, but respecting the shape of the old car, the perspective from which the photo was taken, and even the environment seems much more real now than the reference photograph, since we have applied this realistic model. As you can see, these functions are super easy, visual and intuitive to apply, so it's a great advantage compared to other applications with much more complex interfaces like Adobe Firefly or Midjourney, especially from Discord if you have to learn the commands. Then it also has other very interesting and essential functions for any AI artist, like the canvas editor, from where we can upload our images and do outpainting. We saw this in another tutorial, so I won't dwell on it much here. And we have other very interesting functions as well. We have also seen this. I made a step-by-step tutorial to train models with Leonardo, which if you're interested and haven't seen, I'll leave in the description of this video. And it even already has the function, now in alpha phase, of generating texture maps for 3D artists. It would be as simple as clicking here to load the object in 3D. It allows up to 20 megabytes and in OBJ format and will generate different texture maps adapted to the shapes. Then there's the updated option to generate quality videos from images and prompts, but first let's look at Leonardo's exclusive flow state feature, which is truly amazing and could revolutionize image generation without the need for writing prompts. This flow state feature is an exclusive proposal from Leonardo to provide inspiration to creatives. By default, it offers us 3 images to experiment with, from which we can use the descriptions used to generate them. But here we are going to learn to generate images from scratch. First, in the exclusive flow state mode, we have 4 different style options. The first would be the vibration, as they call it. Well, properly the style. Acrylic painting, anime, bronze, origami, graphic design, color sketch, oil painting. I am going to choose, for example, this one here of clay sculpture. Then, the second option we have to define the style would be lighting. We have several predefined ones: backlight, front light, candlelight, dramatic, chiaroscuro, lens flare, artistic soft, volumetric. Quite convenient to be able to choose. Then, for the type of shot, we have different options: close-up, high angle, low angle, cinematic, moving, spiritual. Let's choose this dreamy one. And finally, we have the option to choose the color palette style. We have several pre-designed here. And I am going to choose, for example, this one, autumnal. The combination might be a bit strange, but let's put it to the test. Finally, let's write here what we wanted to generate. I'm simply going to put a rat. We click generate, and in just a few seconds, we have a bunch of images with these characteristics. And as we scroll down, it keeps creating more without limits. All with the same characteristics. They depict a rat in clay sculpture technique with hard and dreamy light and an autumnal color palette. To find inspiration, it is really comfortable and quick to define these characteristics simply by choosing from very visual menus without needing to write long strings of prompts. And we are going to do another test if we want to find inspiration in a much more open way. Let's choose from the styles, this one, for example, surrealist. This time, let's give the type of lighting a mystical feel. And for the type of shot, we'll leave it as random, and the color of the scene also random. Let's ask it to represent, for example, a goddess. We click Generate. Again, And in a matter of seconds, we have a bunch of images being generated in real time, with much more open styles, but aesthetically much more diverse, meeting only the characteristics we have defined, the vibrancy and the style of lighting. Super quickly, we can receive a lot of aesthetic proposals, and from one that we particularly like, we can start working in that direction. For example, if we particularly like this golden scene, we would simply have to press this more like this button. And similarly, in a matter of seconds, it would give us a bunch of different proposals with characteristics shared with this image. And then, from any of them, we can also, for example, use them as a guide image. We could also edit them using the canvas function, and we can even animate them by generating a video, which is what we will see next. Or also, if we wanted to isolate them, it has the function to remove the background. Again, a very useful function for creatives to find inspiration, and that I have only seen in Leonardo. And then, another essential function for me is the rescaling or upscaling. For now, Leonardo's is still by far the best, as I will show you next. I already showed you over a year ago when it was incorporated, but now it is improved on with new options. We simply upload an image we have, perhaps not with the best quality. In the upscaling mode, we have the classic and the ultra, which is new. For the upscaling, we can choose from various styles. I am going to choose cinematic. If we want to guide it, although it's not necessary, we can use prompts to indicate what type of image it is, a young woman, and we would click here on the upscale button. Also here, using this dial, we could determine the creativity. If we want Leonardo to add more inventiveness, or if we want him to stick more to the reference image. I have left it somewhere in between, and here we can set the dimensions of the rescaling. By default, it is at double the resolution, but we could reduce it. And then the new feature of upscaling is the ultra option, which is especially useful for people to adhere more to their facial features. We could define the style, which would be realistic, and then if we want the strength of upscaling to be ultra, high, medium, or low. But well, in this case, since the provided image does not have very defined features because the quality is very poor, I have upscaled and reconstructed from the classic option. And here we see the result, which is absolutely spectacular. Where there were only undefined, pixelated tonal masses of poor quality, Leonardo has interpreted different textures, recreating the hair, the background fabric, the skin, and the facial features. Here you can compare the before and after. If you can do this with such a low quality image, it will have no problem giving greater definition and quality to your photographs. And not just photographs, we can also apply it to illustrations. We see here one generated with artificial intelligence, and as is common in most applications, including Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, when you ask to generate several people in the same scene, the features of each one lose definition and quality. Apparently, it is not extremely defective, but after passing it through Leonardo's upscaler, we will see that the difference in details is abysmal. This time we will indicate that the style of the image is 2D art and illustration. We will leave the prompt box blank for it to interpret freely. We will set creativity to something intermediate at 6 and press the upscale button. And this is the result in a matter of seconds. If we enlarge the image, we can see that each character's face has much more definition. In the case of this girl, what stands out the most is the mouth, not well defined as either open or closed, with teeth or lips. And Leonardo defines it perfectly by adding details and making the face much more harmonious. The same with this boy with glasses, much better defined and proportioned. Likewise with this other girl. Come on, the quality of this function with Leonardo, at least as of today, has no rival. And now finally, let's go with the latest update of Leonardo, which was the one missing to make it the most complete AI application, the video one. Although it existed before, it wasn't very developed, and now it is much more competitive with this version of Motion 2.0. This is the type of animations that were made a couple of years ago, which were not bad for their time, when AI videos were not very developed, but it had fallen quite behind. It rotates, but we see here some slightly unnatural distortions. Then, for simple images like this, it didn't lose much consistency if it was just a zoom, although we still see small defects here, and when it came to animating people, it practically didn't work. Very static and barely changed abstract backgrounds a little. And if you also had it animate a group of people instead of just one, it progressively distorted the faces and bodies and the result was frankly poor. Let's go. While the rest of Leonardo's functions for image generation and editing were improving to rank among the best in its sector, in video generation it was falling far behind other applications like Luma Labs, Runway, Kling or Sora. Well, now in video generation or image animation it has also made a good leap forward, and right now we are going to see the comparison of this function with respect to its previous version. If we click here on the video option, we can describe what we want it to generate for us. For example, a girl player, or we can directly upload it from here if we already have a generated image that we like. We are not going to make a great definition. Here you can already see that it is a girl, the tones, the setting, and so on. In the prompts, we are simply going to put player, and then we have a very interesting option here, which is the movement control. Visually and very simply, it shows us different examples here, so we can choose one without having to describe it in the prompts. And even here we see that it allows for the inclusion of some special effects like explosions. Well, I'm not going to select any, I'm going to let it animate as it sees fit. And down here we can see that it also allows us to determine the style, lighting and color palette in case we want to modify any of these aspects of the original image.
I left it as is, pressed the generate button, and let's see how it animated.
Well, the leap in image animation is huge compared to what the previous version did. We see that the character is no longer static, it has fluid and complex movement, there are no distortions, the image is consistent and dynamic, and it even gestures realistically and naturally. And if you also look at the environment, the progressive change in lighting is also believable. And even the bokeh effect of the lights and the camera blurs are completely credible. The image is truly complex, with a lot of different elements that it interprets and animates appropriately. We see it even in very subtle things, like the movement of the hair when leaning back, the fingers on the keyboard, the physics of leather even. In short, a huge advancement that once again puts it at the forefront in video generation. Well, this has been the tour of Leonardo AI with its new features and others that already existed but are updated and improved. Unfortunately, it is a paid tool, but for me, it has a good quality-price ratio and above all, many diverse and useful functions in a single application. So if you are regular users of AI, I think it more than compensates for its price. And again, this is my personal opinion, it is not a promotional video paid for by Leonardo. If you're interested, you have the link below in the description of this video, and if you liked these updates, at least on an informational level, you can leave me a like, a comment, and that's it. A hug and see you with the next video.